learning new behaviors or changing an old behavior in response to a stimulus. So there's two different things. Habituation, that's when repeated exposure to the same stimulus decreases a response. So it's kind of like alcohol or drug tolerance. After repeated exposure to that specific drug or alcohol, you're gonna have you're gonna have a decrease in response to it. So like a less high or less drunk than you normally would if you than you normally would without drinking repeated amounts or using repeated amounts of that drug or alcohol. But then dishabituation is when you have a temporary recovery of the response to the stimulus after habituation occurs. So after habituation occurs, if you give it a good enough amount of time, if you are exposed to that stimulus again, you'll have another response to it even after habituation. It'll be temporary and it'll be a reduced response. So it won't be as high as you normally would if you were exposed to a stimulus before habituation occurred. So I'm going to go over two different types of learning: associative learning and observational learning. So first, I'm going to go over associative learning. So that's when you create an association between a stimulus or a behavior and a particular response to the stimulus. So there's a type of learning called latent learning. That's when you learn without reward given to you, but then you can spontaneously demonstrate the behavior after a reward is presented. So that's when you unconsciously learn a specific behavior without knowing, and it's not something that you would normally do, this behavior, but then after you're presented with an award, you spontaneously demonstrate it because you unconsciously learned it in the past. And then preparedness, so that's a concept where someone is predisposed to learning a specific behavior based on their natural ability. So it's not something that can be learned or taught. It's just something that they were born with, and they're able to learn this behavior or skill better. And then related to that, instinctive drift. So once you're born with the ability to or a certain behavior, it's difficult to overcome your instincts and either move away from that behavior or stop performing that behavior. And then associative learning is also split into two different categories: classical learning, classical conditioning, and then operant conditioning. So the first part I'm going to go over is that. So, and then the other learning that's different from associative learning is observational learning. So that's when we learn new behaviors or change our behaviors by watching other people. So an important concept for observational learning is modeling. So we learn acceptable behaviors from watching people in our lives. So usually the first people that we model would be our parents, and then maybe teachers in school, and then role models later on in life. And an important part of our body that is used in observation learning is a specific neuron called mirror neurons. So these neurons are in the frontal and parietal lobe of our cerebral cortex. So these are important for observational learning because they're fired both when watching and performing an action. So whenever we're watching someone perform an action and we're physically doing the action, the mirror neurons are activated. So think of mirror as like reflecting back at each other, reflecting back the image. So whenever we watch someone do it and we're personally doing it, we're trying to mirror them. That's when the mirror neurons are activated. So this would be used when we feel empathetic. So when we're feeling the same emotions as someone, we would use mirror neurons. So if you're feeling sad because someone else is feeling sad, that would be the mirror neurons working together to create empathy. But then motor processes, so like when we're trying to copy someone else, so we're trying to copy someone's action, mirror neurons would also be used for it, because we're trying to mirror their actions. We're watching them, but then performing it at the same time. So they would perform like a dual action.